And I thank the Minister for his courtesy in providing advance sight of the statement, which was rather vacuous, but we did have a good chance to study it carefully. He makes much of the work that's been carried out by civil servants, working under intense pressure, preparing businesses, individuals and the wider society for Brexit. We acknowledge the very hard work of all those civil servants. We thank them for their service and we welcome the work which the government's doing in that respect. But the truth is, though, that £6.3 billion is being spent on Brexit preparations, and yet it's too little now because it's too late. And even if all the preparations had been carried out in time and in a more comprehensive way, the country still has no idea whether we're going to leave with a deal or with no deal. So let me come straight to the point, because there are significant omissions in the Minister's statement. No mention, for example, of medical supplies, but in the last 24 hours, serious health leaders have warned that no deal could result directly in medical shortages, affect treatment for UK nationals in Europe and exacerbate the already difficult NHS crisis. And it's been reported, hasn't it, Mr. Speaker, that the government is now stockpiling body bags because of concerns that there may be an increase in the mortality rate. Can the Minister assure the House that this is not the case, and if it is, will he explain what he's doing about it? And the statement makes mention of 1 million EU citizens who have been given settled status. We welcome it, but there are over 3 million in the House, and the government's prevarication over time and its inadequate preparations right from the beginning has caused great anxiety and left millions of people who live here, pay tax here, made their lives here, have their children here, all wondering what their future holds. And it's a mark of the slow progress, Mr. Speaker, that's being made that they still haven't resolved the status of UK citizens, as the Minister stated, who are living in Europe. Now, he talks about getting businesses ready, yet it's only a few weeks ago that this serious-minded business leaders demanded an independent inquiry into what a no-deal Brexit would actually consist of, amid accusations that vital information about potential problems was deliberately being held back by the government. That's the business community itself. And in the early part of his statement, the Minister makes much of trust in this House and in democracy, but the truth is the government's playing fast and loose, both with democracy and with the House. I say this because of the proposal that the House be prorogued and that the Prime Minister's staff are now hinting at a possible cynical general election. One way or another, which we are ready for, but one way or another, they are set on closing this House of Commons down for weeks when the country is facing one of the most difficult times in our recent history. And if there is an election, and here's a very important point, if there is an election, the direction of the country will be hotly debated, and its relationship with the EU. We and the country will need full access to all of the relevant information. Now, the Minister's statement conceals more than it reveals. But can he confirm that during an election period or during a prorogation period, whichever it is, that the civil service preparations for Brexit will continue, if necessary, through the election purdah? And if during the purdah, ministers will continue to provide political guidance to civil servants on Brexit, and if that is the case, I give notice now that we as the opposition will seek immediate access to the civil service and ask to be fully informed of all the information which the House has been denied and the country about all such developments, as is the Convention. And that request must begin the minute an election is called. Now, just 8 weeks ago, the current Prime Minister told his party in the country that the chances of a no-deal Brexit were 1 million to 1 against. Yet this morning, the former Chancellor, I see he's not in his place now, stated that there is no progress. There are no substantive negotiations going on. Is that true? The two positions can't be easily reconciled. Either they are or they aren't. And listening to the Prime Minister in the Chamber just now, most people still have no idea. To most informed observers, however, it appears that the government's favoured deal, whatever they say, is no deal. And so let's listen to the Minister's own words from earlier this year. This very same Minister, he said, quote, leaving without a deal would undoubtedly cause economic turbulence. Almost everyone, he said, accepts that. And then he went on to say, we didn't vote to leave without a deal. That was the man who led the whole Brexit debate from the point of view of trying to Brexit. He was for May's deal. He was against a no deal. But now he's a minister for no deal. How does he reconcile the progress of his career? And so I say to him, the House must be allowed to see the detailed assessments contained in the Yellowhammer dossier. The truth is, he's hiding it, but why? Because the media reports that Yellowhammer Papers, even the watered-down version that he's working on, portray such a disastrous picture of the country under no deal that the government dare not publish them. Yet, shockingly, leaked excerpts talk of potential shortages, delays, even protests on the streets. And is it not a disgrace that they intend to close Parliament down for 5 weeks without allowing the House to scrutinise the government's detailed programme for no deal? Members have a right to know what the government's preparations are, as does the country. After all, it was him who said, quote, we are in a parliamentary democracy, he said. And listen to this, Mr. Speaker. He went on to say, and proroguing Parliament in order to try to get a no deal through would be wrong. Those were his exact words. But that is precisely what they're now trying to do. How can he justify the amount of resources being spent on no deal with no scrutiny or accountability from the House? It's simply unacceptable. And under normal Purdah rules, by the way, select committees looking at Brexit preparations of Yellowhammer may also be suspended, leaving absolutely no scrutiny by the House and by members of the government's plans. So when it comes to Yellowhammer, the media appears to be better formed than the House. Let me ask him briefly some questions.
Order. I mean, in a sentence or two, but no more. Order. The honourable gentleman's well in excess of his time. He can ask 2 or 3 questions, but it needs to be in a sentence. Thank you. John Trickett.
What assessment has he received about disruption to the ports? What assessment has been made and reported to him of the situation in Ireland? And will he confirm what assessment he's had of the impact of no deal on food prices? All of these matters must be addressed, Mr. Speaker, by this House in a full. Let him place the documents in the Library of the House of Commons so we can all explore it. Thank you very much.